Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another one of our Optimus training sessions. This morning session is going to be about service scheduling in Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM. And your trainer this morning is Mr. Jorge Castro. He's the regional CRM practice lead here at Optimus. So he's going to be taking you through the general concepts, how to use it, the differences with the service calendar, and he will show you a few practical exercises. So Optimus has been awarded another gold level partnership recognition with LS Retail for 2021. We are now currently in Bogota and Cali, Colombia. We opened a new office on the fifth floor of the World Trade Center in Bogota, actually. Our firm has 3 PhDs on staff who head up our data science division. And we are also still gold certified with data analytics and data platform with Microsoft. We were recently awarded the top 100 consulting firm VAR award in 2021 by Global Insights publication. So we've been busy. For this week, we have quite a few trainings. We have the Microsoft Dynamics GP Data Archive training. We have Microsoft Dynamics CRM as well on August 10th. We're focusing on Business Central on August 11th, and we may be having our special event on August 12th. That will be confirmed. For those of you who may be interested in being a part of these trainings, please feel free to visit our website at www.optimus.guru/training, or click on the training tab and register for any one of the sessions that you may see there. Our Hello Summer promos are almost at an end, so this is the final month where you can actually benefit from a lot of these promos. We have the switch from RMS to LS1 promo still running. It expires on August 31st, 2021. We also have a number of Dynamics Microsoft promos running for AX, NAV, GP, and SL licenses. And we also have our Optimus support promos still running. All of these will expire on August 31st. So our upcoming events, as I said earlier, they may be changed, but we're looking at doing our retail event, hopefully in the mid to latter part of September. Our hospitality event will be on August 19th, and our food and beverage event will be on August 26th. So for those of you who may be interested in being a part of these events, please feel free to reach out to us at operations@optimus.guru, or visit the website, go on the training tab, you'll see special events under the title, and feel free to register, or reach out to your nearest Optimus representative. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Jorge.
Thank you, Francine. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. This one. Okay. For today, we are going to be covering the service scheduling module in Microsoft Dynamics 365. Just as an introduction, why do I need to use the service scheduling model? Basically, it's a model in CRM that allows you to configure your resources, and after that, just design or just define the services that you are going to provide, and it's going to help you to do the plan and to schedule that services and to schedule that resources. So that's why it's important and try to understand this model and understand, of course, the functionality. The topics that we're going to be covering today are basically four. The first one is understand the scheduling experience. After that, I'm going to be doing a scheduling scenario. The idea is just try to present with a real a scenario the functionality that we are going to be just covering. After that, I'm going to explain you how to configure the service scheduling model in your instance. Probably some of you already have a CRM instance, and some other probably doesn't have one. So the procedure to install that functionality could be different in both cases. So I'm going to explain that. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to try to make a recap or try to make a small overview of all the entities that you have to keep in mind to understand the model and try to identify if it's something that you could use in your business or not. Okay, let's start. The first thing is understand the scheduling experience. So basically, it's just a small idea or just a summary. Microsoft basically takes all the elements that already has on in some in the schedule board in the service calendar and some other elements that Microsoft already has in Dynamics and put everything together in the Universal Resources Scheduling, the URS. What is that? So if you review the resource planning that you have in the scheduling service, or if you review the resource planning that you have in the project model, or if you review the resources planning that you have in some other models that you have in CRM, uh, probably you'll see that it's exactly the same. So they take the base, they take all the elements that you need to prepare or to schedule resources and put everything together in the universal resources scheduler. Okay, so the idea today is that I'm going to explain you uh, a general description of all the model, but with that model, with that explanation, you should be able to understand how project works, how the service scheduling works, how the resources scheduling works, because it's exactly the same base. So the idea today is that I'm going to cover that base, and with that information, you will be able to understand the whole models. Okay, let's do this with one scenario. So today, the idea and basically I took this scenario from the Microsoft pages, uh, because is the easiest way to understand this. Okay, so the idea is that today we are going to simulate a Contoso bike repair company that basically schedule their customers. The idea is that you must be able to have some information like geographical locations where they need to offer their services, the personnel and equipment that they need to perform to these services, the type of bugs that you are going to repair, the work hours that you are going to be working, and the capacity of the expert for all the personnel. So with all of these elements, we're going to be just configuring an scenario. As you can see here, is like a typical business, probably a business that you will be doing some services on site. You will be able to, I mean, you will be doing some services on the customer side, and and the idea here is that you have some persons that you need to schedule to provide some services. So that's the main idea. And the idea is that we are going to configure this in directly in the system. Okay, the first thing, probably I didn't mention here. No. Okay. Okay, the first thing is how to go directly to the model. Let's go to the model. I'm going to open the CRM here. And to start, we're going to go, there are different ways to go to that model. As I mentioned, in the CRM already have, we already have the base, but there are some apps that you could use to go directly to the model. You could use the customer service hub. Of course, you could use field service. Of course, you could use project. You could use breakdown operations, and you could use resource scheduling. All of that apps have access to the same model but with different skin. It's exactly the same. Okay. On this case, we are going to be using the customer service hub because it has a menu that I like. So here in the menu, you need to go to scheduling. Okay, so this is the menu that we are going to be using today. But and just as a reference, as you can see, probably let's say resources, services, scheduling. Okay, let's go for a moment to resource services, resource schedule. It's going to be resources, a schedule board. Some in some cases there are some difference in the names, but it's exactly the same. It's the same resources, it's the same booking, it's the same resources requirement. So let's try to understand the base, and after that you will be able to use almost all of them. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. The first thing that you need to do is configure an organizational unit. What is an organizational unit? An organizational unit are the locations where the company, in this case Contosa, provides services to their customers. Okay, so let's try to identify that model. So just go to organizational units. Uh, in my case, I have Optimus. For this exercise, I created Contoso bike repair. When you create an organizational unit, you just need to provide a name, a description, the currency, and probably some price list. But for the moment, we're not going to do that because I want to understand the model in a global way. After that, we could go deep in these elements. If the organizational unit have a latitude and longitude, it's a good idea. Just put it here because after that, for example, if we are going to use the field service model that already has some maps and that could create some routes, it's a good idea just to have the latitude and longitude. But for this exercise, we are going to just create a name and we are going to just relay the currency. Okay, that's the first thing. Create the organizational unit. The second thing that you need to do is create the resources. There are many different of resources. In the example that we are going to be doing, we are going to create two resources. The type of that resource is going to be contacts. The first one is going to be Bear, and the second one is going to be Gilda. And in the same way, we are going to create some equipment, some facilities. In this case, we are going to create some bike repair workbench, and actually we're going to create two. Okay, so if we go to the CRM, let's go to resources. As you can see here, I already have Bear Hair here, and I already have Gilamos here, and I have some workbench here. As you can see, there are some of them that are contacts, some other are users, some other are equipment. So when you click on new, you need to identify or define the type of resource that you want, the resource type that you want to create. When do I need to use any of these ones? For example, there are some resources that probably are contacts. What are contacts? Are persons that probably provide services, but they don't have access to the CRM. That's why are not users, because they are going to provide a service, but it's not something that they need to do directly in the CRM. So that's why they don't have CRM user. We just need to create that people as a contact, and after that just relate here as a resource. If you have a resource that has access directly to the CRM, probably you need to create them as a user because they are going to be able to access to the CRM. If you need to create some elements like a workbench or like some type of equipment, I don't know, you need to do it as an equipment. For example, some tools or some elements that probably you need to involve. You need to do it as an equipment. Okay, let's review the resources that I create before. I have this one that is a contact. When you define a contact, the CRM is going to allow you to select a contact here, and you could define a name. Could be the same name of the contact, could be different. Doesn't matter. It's really important to define the time zone because you are going to schedule services, so the resource must be configured in the appropriate way in terms of the time zone. Additionally, there are some elements that are relevant depends of the model that you are using. As I explained you, resources is like a transversal entity. So for example, in this case, you could configure some resource skills. You could configure some characteristics like experience, some other elements, certifications or levels of training. You could configure some elements there, and additionally, you will be able to configure roles. In this case, I configure this person as a technician, but you could configure some additional roles, and after that, just define what's the related roles that could has uh, um, our research. Okay, so in the same way, I configure some other elements like equipment. When you select equipment, the CRM is going to change this field and it's not going to allow you to select a contract. It's going to allow you to select a facility or equipment piece, and it's going to be basically the same. Just need to define some information and that's it. You just need to create a resource. After create a resource, you need to define the work hours. As you can see here in the presentation, we are just jumping from the general tab to the work hours. We didn't see the other tabs here, but it's basically because as I explained you, resources is something that the project model is using, the field service model is using. So depending of the model that you are going to be using, you need to configure some additional things here. Like for example, if you are using field service, you need to configure all of these elements. If you are using field service, of course, you need to configure some characteristics, some categories, and some hourly rates, and some other elements that applies for field service. But for our example, we are going to configure the general one, that is the resource. And after that, we need to configure the work hours. This is really important because by default, the CRM just assume that you work almost every day and all the time. So you need to click here. You need to click and edit. Probably all events in this series because the time probably is going to be the same every day. So you need to define an initial or the start date. You need to define the days that you are going to be working. And for example, here, if you just put from 8 to 5, probably you want to add a break, something like this. And additionally, you need to configure that time zone, that the time zone that applies for this time. Okay, let's click on save, and the CRM is going to change the schedule for that person. Okay, you could do it day by day or week by week, but the idea is just try to configure the work hours here. And if you need to do some changes, you could do it in a specific day. Okay. This is really important. You need to configure the available all the work hours that every resource is going to be available. Because when you start planning or when you start scheduling the resources, the CRM is going to take this information in account. Okay. So the third step, the step three, sorry, is configure the work hours. The next step is create the resource group. A resource group basically is a category that allows you to configure, for example, technicians, for example, workbench. It's a group of resources. You could create that in a resource category. That is a module that appears here. That is a functionality that's appear here. Well, I didn't explain facilities and equipment, but when I create a workbench, I use this model. When you create a workbench, you just need to define the organizational unit and the time zone and probably a primary email if you want to just send some notification or something like that. And the facilities, of course, has a work hours too because that you need to represent the availability for that resource. After that, you need to configure the resource category just to group the technicians or just to group the workbench. This is important. And of course, in the resources, you need to relate what kind of resources you are doing. For example, a technician, but if you go to workbench, probably here you're going to have to go workbench. Okay. You need to relate the resource category that applies for each resource. This is really important, and you need to configure the resource group in the model of resource category, of course. The next thing that you need to do is create a service. What's a service? Uh, you need to define what services your company is going to provide. So that's why you need to configure the service. It's not a service request or a service activity. It's just the service that you are going to provide. That in our case is going to be a bike service. We didn't specify what specific service, but you could do it. Uh, and you just need to configure the name of the service. Probably it's really important to create a description or specify the type of service. And after that, you need to relate the 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 estimated duration for that service. I know that there are some services that you cannot just estimate the time, but there are some of the that you can. So as soon as if it's possible, just try to configure the duration that the service is going to take. Additionally, you could configure a period of time that is going to be like a blank space or like like a delay between the activities, between the services, because probably you don't finish a service and immediately start another one. Probably you need to just wait a little bit. In this case, I just leave like 15 minutes because probably between services, that's the time that you could wait. And additionally, you need to define at what time you're going to start the services. I know that when you configure the service, you define a schedule like a work hours, but probably when you arrive to your company or your place of work, you immediately doesn't start to work. I mean, probably your work hour is from 8, but you start the activities at 8:30 or something like that. So you could configure this here. Additionally, you could configure the initial status for a service request for a service activity. By default, is going to be requested because you are just going to configure, you are just going to create the services as a requested activity, and after that someone else is going to schedule that activity, is going to book that activity. Okay, so we need to configure the service, and additionally we need to configure the resources requirements. What does it mean? That when you create a service, for example in my case, I'm telling the system that for the Contoso Bike organizational unit, for this service, I need one technician and I need a workbench. So I am defining the resources that I'm going to need for that service. Okay. So if you need to add one, you just need to click here and click in subgroup or requirement. Depends of the action that you want. If you want to create some group of elements or some group of requirements, you could do it. But if you want to create a requirement, you just need to add a requirement here. Okay, and just fill out the line. Okay, so the step number 5 is create a service. Okay, the step number 6 is create a service activity. So what is a service activity? Let's review it. A service activity is defined to look for the next available time slot to schedule the service and align the resources and requirements. So basically, when you already know that you want or that you are going to uh, schedule a service, you need to do it like a service activity. Okay. I already booked this, so I'm going to create a new one just to let you know how's the procedure. Because this one is already booked. So I want to create a new one. So just create a service activity. Let's say service activity, and it's going to be this one, probably because of the time. It's going to be this service. If you already know the client that is going to receive these services probably is going to be Steve. And if you have any location like addresses or something like that, you could just write it here. Okay. And you are going to be just requesting that, and you are going to relate some organizational unit. That is the place that you are going to provide the services. Okay. So this is all information that you need to create a service activity. Of course, there is an owner, there is a priority, but it's additional information that if you don't want, you don't have to fill it out. And there are some booking that is not available until you save. Okay, let's save this request. We are just requesting the service. Okay, we are not booking the service yet. We are just requesting the service. And after that, we need to book the service. Okay, so we already have the service. It's taken a little bit more time than I was expected, but okay, we already have this service request, and now we need to book the service. Okay, the schedule board display all the service configuration. Okay, you could do it. You could book the service using two tools. The first one, you could just click on book, of course, but it's going to open the schedule board. And additionally, you want, you could go directly to scheduling. It's up to you, but I think that's better. Just go from the service activity. Just click on book, and the CRM is going to show you. It's going to present you the availability. So, like for example, let's say, uh, hmm, because it say that is not available. So, there are no results that meet search criteria. Please modify your search and then try again. Okay. Okay. Let's see the resources and the schedule that I define. Like for example, just go to resources. Let's go to this guy, scheduling, work hours. This guy is available anytime, basically. Okay, let me do it from here. Okay. Okay, I already have some okay, as I mentioned, if you are working on projects, you are going to be using open requirement. If you are using the model that I'm using, that is service scheduling, is going to be service activities here. This is my activity. And if you're working on field service, you are going to be using work orders. If you are working on projects, probably you're going to be working on projects. For this case, I need to select this activity. And let me just try to expand a little bit this, probably. And after that, you will see all the resources that you have available there. And you just need to click when do you want to book that service. Of course, you could use a lot of filters that you have available here if you want to, because if you want to identify a specific resource or a specific equipment, you could do it. But in my case, I'm just going to select directly from here. Let's say that I'm going to schedule that for, this is some weeks. So probably I could change it by days. Actually, probably I could schedule this by hours. So for example, here I am on Wednesday. That is, I think that tomorrow. And let's say that I'm going to schedule this for this time. Okay, so I have to select the resource. Uh, I don't know why it's not working well. Let me change to the new schedule bar. And service activities, this one. and Wednesday. But it's not what I need. Okay, requirements. Okay, I need to create a requirement first. But I thought that I already created. Sorry. I just create a service activity, and in the service activity requested, yes, actually it was with exactly the same name. Let's do it like new. Okay, and after that I need to book, but I don't know why it's not taking the time. Let me see. Service, Contoso, schedule information. Okay, but I want to show you that because it's important. Let me try to review this. Okay, you need to configure the service here, and the availability depends of the service, of course. You need to configure on what time is going to be the and you already have the resources related here. Additionally, I have the resources with the availability here. Okay, all of this is okay. And here you need to configure the resource that you want to schedule. So you just need to go to scheduling. I mean, it should be a book. Oh, because it's already booked. This is the thing that is it's not book. Sorry. So I just need to click here. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here. Okay, let's create a resource. A requirement. Uh, bike repair. And the requirement is going to be from this to this because that's the time that I wanted to do the services, and it should be available active. Okay, let me see if I am doing well. Service scheduling. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this. Bike repair. Okay. Okay. That's it. Okay. Sorry because of the delay. So basically, you need to configure a requirement, and after that, with that requirement, you just need to just book the person. If you need to define who's the person that is more appropriate for the service, you could just search using the roles. For example, if you need a technician, the CRM is going to apply the filter and it's going to allow you to identify what are the roles with the person with that roles. If you need to identify your workbench, you could do it in the same way. So when you configure and when you book the services, after that, if you go to the service activity on the booking tab, uh, you should be able to see the book resource that already have it there. Okay, the book is just requested. Let me just pass it. It's committed. Okay, the capacity, the committed. Because if it's already committed, you could just change it just right here. If the service is already complete, you could just change it as complete. But basically, the idea of that in this schedule board, you are going to see all the resources that are scheduled, on what time they are scheduled, what service they are providing. If you change to the new one, like in this case, you are going to just put your mouse here and you will see some details. If you just want to click here, you could go directly to the activity, and that's it. Okay. You will be able to see here information per hour, per day, per week, per month. If you want to see as a list, you could just review the information here. This is all the activities that that person already has. If you want to see as a calendar, you just need to click here. There are so many functionalities here that you could change. You could see the legends, what means every icon. You will see the map view. If you already have the resources with the locations, you will see the location for that resources. For example, in my case, it's telling me that I'm Cali. So there is a lot of functionalities here that you could use. Okay. So the last step was just book the service. Okay. And basically that's the scenario. So you need to configure the services, you need to configure the resources, and after that you will be able to configure the schedule. Okay, how could I configure the service schedule in my instance? By default, the CRM doesn't have that model. It's something that you need to install. You need to configure. So how could I do that? You need to go to this page. You need to go to the admin power platform to .microsoft.com. Just getting with your credentials, I mean, should be a Microsoft global administrator. Probably with a CRM administration could be enough. And after that, you are going to see all the environments that you have available in your tenant. The thing that you need to do, for example, in my case, let me try to enter to this instance. You need to enter to the instance that you want to install that model. And here you need to go to resources and click on Dynamics 365 apps. And you will see all the apps that you already have installed. Of course, I already have it installed that, but the one that you need to install is this one, Dynamics 365 Service Scheduling. If you are going to use later in your instance the project model or the field service model or wherever, you are going to need this one because this one is the base. This one is the app that includes all elements that I already explained you. So how to install, just need to install app, just identify the app here. Of course, it's not going to appear because I already have it. But let's say that is this one, and after that, just click on next. It's going to ask you if you're sure. You just need to click yes, and that installation probably is going to take 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So, but after that, you will see the functionality just right here on your customer service hub. You are going to see that, and you are going to see the resources scheduling here. Okay, so some elements that you need to keep in mind for a new Dynamics 365 customer service environment. By default, the core service scheduling solution is installed. It is just if when you create your instance, you select that you are going to have customer service there. The CRM is going to install that by default. But if you create your instance and you just select that you want like an empty instance, or you want to customize your apps later, you are not going to have that app by default. So you need to install it. For an existing Dynamics 365 customer service, you must install the service. As I explained, you need to go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center. That is the page that I already present you. That is this one. And you just need to select your instance and install it. I really recommend you that if you are going to install that, try to do it in all your instances at the same time. Why is that? Because when you install, for example, in the developer environment, the Microsoft is going to install a specific version of the model let's say, for example, this one. This is the version. And if you install later in production environment or something like that, probably you're going to have some differences. So I really recommend you try to install in the same step and try to keep updated every time in all the instances. It's a good idea because of some dependencies and some elements that could be different. So try to keep it updated. Some prerequisites, of course, you need to have some permissions. You need to be a CRM global administrator or yes, a system administrator. Uh, Try to install ensure that your organization already has the universal resource scheduling. Uh, and again, it's exactly the same. You could see that here. Should be here. Yeah. Well, actually, that functionality is already included here. Before we install a different one, but now when you install this one, it's already included. So that probably doesn't apply now. Okay. Okay. Let's understand some entities that probably I just mentioned, and I just keep moving kind of fast. But I want to just recap, or I want to just uh, mention a little bit more. Resources. Anything that needs to be scheduled can be termed as a resource. So what does it mean? Personnel, crew, services center, companies, equipment, accounts, content, anything of that elements should be configured as a resource. If you have a user in your system or if you have a contact in your systems, but you don't configure them as resources, the model is not going to allow you to see that resources. So you need to configure the resources before start using the model. Facilities and equipment are resources that you will use to perform the service for your customer. All the elements, all the tools, all the equipment. You need to configure that as facilities and equipment. Uh, Resource category is going to allow you to classify the resources basically. For example, you can create categories like technicians, supervisors, subcontractors, vehicles, or equipment. It's a way to classify the resources that you are going to relate into a service. So it's a good idea try to define the resources that you want. Okay. A service to make a schedule and service quick and easy. It's helpful to predefine the specific of services that you are going to provide. You need to configure the services that you are going to provide. If you are going to do some bike repairs or some motorcycle repairs or some car repairs or some different services probably in your business, you need to configure that services. Actually, if you are going to be working on cars, for example, or something like that, you need to configure different services, probably change the tires or align the vehicle, something like that. It probably is a good idea. Try to be more specific in the services. A service activity is just try to find the next time available for your resources to provide services. And there's some additional option there that I didn't explain you because I didn't use it a lot, but the fulfillment preference, choose and customize how to display the schedule as system result. I mean, if there are some preferences or some elements that you want to highlight, you could use this functionality. Okay, tools that you can use additionally. For example, the schedule board. The Dynamics 365 Customer Service Schedule Board provides an overview of the resource. It's a graphical, I mean, it allows you to see graphically or in a calendar, in a basically in a schedule board, uh, the 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 resources, uh, uh, the services that you already have booked, all the elements related to your services are immediately presented in that tool. Okay. The next one is the settings, organizational units. You need to configure your company organized in business by geography, by function, by other areas. So you need to configure the organizational units that are all that elements that makes part of your business. And additionally, you need to configure the business closure. That is the functionality that allows you to configure the holidays, the no working days. So you need to configure that just to avoid some misscheduled. Okay, basically that those are the entities that you need to keep in mind. Uh, if you want to try this, you could do it. Just go directly to our trial instant. It's going to be available anytime. You could come. Actually, it's already configured the model there. So you could try create services, create resources, create activity services using the schedule board and some of the all the elements that I already explained you. It is a good idea. Just go there and try to do it by yourself. Remember that if you have any question or if you want to just I don't know, just discuss anything, you could just write me and I will be there to answer you and try to explain you any additional thing related with this model. Well, this is all for today. Thanks a lot for your time and for your attention, and let's see you uh, in another session. Thank you.